Yo, 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 what's up, what's up, what's up? What's up, what's up, what's up? How we doing, how we doing, how we doing? How we doing, chat? Just getting started. How's everyone's Halloween going? It was our son's first Halloween. We had him dressed up as Baby Mario. He was looking sharp. I was Donkey Kong, my wife was Mario, and our dog was Luigi. So it was a lot of fun. My son's too young to have candy. He's only 6 months old, but we got the photo, and he'll really appreciate it when he gets older. He'll get to see what his first Halloween was like. So everyone's asleep. Got all my work done today, and then we celebrated Halloween. Now I'm on dad duty tonight, and I'm gonna be streaming. Also have a full-blown Donkey Kong costume, so if I get any galaxies tonight, if I get any Twitch subs, we're putting that bad boy on. We're putting that bad boy on. Because why not? It's Halloween. If you guys are here watching, and you gift a galaxy or a tier 1 sub, I'm going full Donkey Kong. Full suit, head to toe. All we're missing are the bananas. We're doing it. We're doing it. That's what we're doing. So I got the ticker going on the top left. And yeah, I should have some fun tonight. Let's see. We're live on Kick, Twitch, YouTube. What else? TikTok. And we're on dad duty. We're on dad duty now. Also, yesterday we talked a little bit about real estate. We talked about subject to a strategy where you as the buyer could essentially take over the seller's mortgage, take over the payments, the mortgage stays in the seller's name, but you own the asset, you make the payments, and it's a good way to get a property for very little money, not have to work with the bank. So it's a good alternative to buy a house without having to go to the bank process. So we talked a little bit about that yesterday. Buying a house subject to the existing mortgage. And then today we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Whatever questions you have about real estate. We can talk about how to fix and flip a home. If anyone's interested, if you watch those shows on HGTV, like what is it? Flip or Flop? Tariq Al Musa. Any of those flipping shows, I can give you insight on how to flip real estate, how to buy right, and that's the main thing, guys. If you're gonna be a flipper in real estate, you gotta make sure you're buying right. You gotta buy really, really cheap. And you know, hey JD, thanks for the follow, brother. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate the follow, JD. Yeah, if you're going to be a fix and flipper, one, it's all about connections and relationships, right? So if you know wholesalers that are constantly, that's what they do all day. Wholesalers, they're trying to find really, really cheap deals so you don't have to, right? So it's good to have a network of good wholesalers that can find you good deals and, you know, make sure that they are truly good deals, right? Like, you don't want to be buying a deal that has been underwritten by a wholesaler and you don't fact check it, because you need to fact check if the deal makes sense. Anyways, so step one, if you're going to fix and flip real estate, you want to make sure that you're buying right. Okay. You need to also understand the ARV, which is after repair value. After repair value is essentially what the property is worth when you're done remodeling it and you put it on the market. What's the market value for a remodeled property? And how you find that out is you have to look at comparables in that area, right? So if you're going to buy a home in Texas, say you're buying a home in Houston, Texas, and you know, South Houston, right? You're going to flip. You want to see what those homes in South Houston have sold for in the last 6 to 9 months. I mean, really 6 months is ideal, but sometimes you might be in areas that have limited inventory. But ideally 6 months of comparables kind of give you an idea of what your house after it's remodeled is going to sell for. So if you have the after repair value in mind, then you can essentially kind of use that number to figure out if the deal makes sense, right? So if I know like a property fixed up is going to be worth $300,000, I want to make sure that I get more than 75% of that after repair value on the purchase, you know, and repairs factored into that equation as well. So there's a lot of spreadsheets out there. There's a lot of resources you can get for free. The 75% ARV minus repairs, different Excel sheets to kind of go over what costs generally are, like flooring, windows, roof, plumbing, electrical, and you can get an idea. The best thing about fix and flipping is you can essentially use other people's money, right? There are lenders out there that will lend based off of the asset value and the ARV as opposed to your personal credit. So if you have a good deal, there's a good chance that a lender may lend on it without having very much money to get the process started. So that's one of the good things about being a fix and flipper. But you need to have a good relationship with contractors. Contractors can make or break you, right? Like, it's easy to find contractors. It's hard to find good contractors. And you'll know if they're good. If they are super busy, then they're good, right? Like if they're always busy, always on a job, they're good. They're always working. If you're interviewing contractors and they have wide open availability, they can't show you previous projects that they've done, then odds are they're not very good. And if they're not very good, then your after repair value after you fix up that property that you just bought is gonna not make that number based on the quality of the work that's being done. So something to keep in mind if you're gonna go fix and flip a home. If you're a real estate investor, which I am, I kind of keep those things in mind, right? You want to keep after repair value in mind. You want to make sure you have a good network of contractors. You want to underwrite the deal, make sure the deal makes sense. And, you know, as far as selling the home too, you need to have a good strategy of marketing and selling the home. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. But that's just one way. And that's just me talking about fix and flipping in less than 5 minutes. There's obviously a lot more that goes into it, which I'd be happy to touch on. If anyone has any questions about fix and flipping, it's great. It's a great experience, man. Like, you could do really well and you could not do very well. So, but really the best time to take that risk is when you're younger, right? So you can learn and take what you've learned into the next project. Just keep trying, right? Like, don't quit. Don't give up just because one deal goes sideways, right? Like, learn from it and take it to the next deal. So also what was pretty popular in the last couple of years was Airbnb investing. A lot of people bought Airbnbs in the last 3 to 5 years because COVID really changed the landscape of travel, and people were staying in Airbnbs more than they were staying in hotels, right? So there was a big demand for Airbnbs, and you know, I actually have a couple Airbnbs that I own, but back then it was really hard to find good ones. So what I would say now is, if you're gonna buy an investment property and you want to make it a rental, make sure that it can rent as a long-term rental, mid-term rental, which is a stay longer than 30 days and less than a year, and a short-term rental if you're into the hospitality space. They can do really well depending on location and amenities that you have. So I like buying assets that have multiple exits. I knew a lot of people that bought like in the Smoky Mountains and beach towns, and like really just solely short-term rental type properties. And whenever it's not busy, you still got to make that mortgage payment, right? And if you don't have tenants paying that mortgage, well, guess what? You're paying that mortgage. And if you're paying that mortgage, you're not making any money. And then, heaven forbid, you get a plumbing leak or foundation issues or a roof issue or windows break, or you have tenants that don't pay rent, then that's an added problem, not having enough reserves to cover those costs. So that's the biggest mistake most real estate investors get into, is they buy a property, they analyze it based off of being able to cash flow, but they don't consider not having enough money for when repairs and tenant evictions happen, which is very expensive. I don't know how many of you are landlords or real estate investors, but it can get very expensive very quick. So I wouldn't quit your day job. Actually having a day job will help you qualify to get more real estate, right? When you're commission based, it's more difficult. So I also help streamers that do really well, and they need to offset their active income they're making off live streaming. Well, how can they do that? They put money towards real estate, which is technically a paper loss, right? So a paper loss will offset active income that you're making if you're a streamer or if you're commission based, and you'll be able to keep more of that money as opposed to paying it when it comes to your income taxes every year. So real estate's a great way to shelter taxes, because you are technically taking paper losses whenever you buy, repair. You have rental properties. It's very clear in the tax code as far as what you can write off. So I also help streamers that make a lot of money in streaming buy real estate, and the right kind of real estate, right? Hey, Goku, thanks for the follow, man. Appreciate you. Because a lot of people don't know, buying a house and getting a rental is great, right? But there's a lot of tax advantages too, especially if you make a lot of money. And if you make a lot of money, like say if you're live streaming and you're making a lot of money live streaming, they're going to get you on the income tax, because it's kind of like it's not a W-2, right? Like you're getting paid as an independent contractor, commission based, right? So there's going to be added self-employment tax on this streaming income that you're gonna make, right? So how do we protect that income? You have real estate, and real estate are paper losses that you take, so you can keep as much of those profits as possible, right? So that's what we're trying to do, guys, is you work hard, you stream, you make a lot of money, and you want to keep that money, right? So how do you keep that money? You need to have paper losses. And how do you get paper losses? You need to own real estate. So anyone have any questions about that? I know I'm kind of yapping. So what I've been talking about, guys, is buying real estate to protect the active income that you make, right? So if you guys are streamers and you're making a lot of money streaming, then you're going to be most likely charged, or you're going to be taxed as a self-employed individual, right? And if your taxed as a self-employed individual, then that tax rate is going to be pretty high. I think it's like double, as opposed to, you know, being W-2. So how do you protect that income that you're making? You have paper losses. Paper losses can be multiple things, but what I'm familiar with is real estate. And real estate, you know, is a depreciating asset that constantly you're having to, quote unquote, invest in, right? Because it's an asset that's going to fail within, per the tax code, I think it's like 27 years or something like that. But there are ways you can take that loss all at once if you do like a short-term rental. Now, I'm not a tax expert, so let me just disclose that. I just have a really good CPA who's explained this to me, because I was making a lot of money as a realtor, and I was having to pay a lot of taxes because I was commission-based. So I started buying real estate to kind of offset my active income. That way, the money that I would have had to pay the IRS went into the investment real estate that I was buying. So, and then real estate tends to appreciate, right? So if you have an appreciating asset over time, you know, that's can be really beneficial in your savings, right? So eventually when you sell that asset, you know, you can really see a nice gain, and you can essentially have kind of like a retirement plan. And that's kind of what real estate is for, right? Is to have like a retirement plan for your future, right? Like instead of like a 401k, you can have multiple investment properties that could potentially be paid off, and you could be living off of that income when you get older. Now, I know a lot of streamers right now, you know, they're fairly young and they don't think about these things, because, you know, you're just trying to make as much money as possible right now, right? So when you're just trying to make as much money as possible, that's great, but you got to think about when you retire, because you're going to get older. And trust me, I am in my mid-30s, so I can tell you from experience, when you start getting older, the energy levels go down, right? Like your body isn't the same as it used to be. And you know, you really got to start thinking like, all right, like hypothetically, if I'm a pro athlete, can I do this forever? Probably not. Right? So what am I going to do to keep making money as I get older? You know, so how many of you guys own real estate? Anyone own a rental? A rental, residential? Oh my gosh, Robert, that was terrible. Anyone own real estate? No one owns a rental property? Anybody own a rental property? I own 3, so I can kind of give you my experience, but I've been yapping for a while about having a rental property, owning real estate, you know, investing in real estate, having a retirement plan, and sheltering that money that you're making, especially if you're a streamer. I talk to a lot of streamers that just make so much money, but then they have to pay most of it back in taxes because they're self-employed, right? So, you know, like, you need to make sure that you understand how to save that money that you're making, especially if you're a streamer, right? So streamers, I mean, it's becoming more saturated nowadays, but, you know, it's really good career if you can make it a career, right? But, you know, it is tough now. It has become more difficult to make it, so to speak. But whether you're a streamer or you're, you know, doing something that is not traditional job, how did I do? Did I do good on this one? I did alright, not bad. Then, you know, you want to protect that money that you make. And that's the main thing, guys, is when you make a lot of money as a self-employed individual, you want to keep as much of that as possible when it comes to income taxes. Because you don't know if you're going to make that kind of money the next year, right? Like, what if they change this game completely, right? And you're awesome at this game, you're making a lot of money because people are watching you play it, and then the next game comes out as completely different and you suck at it, right? There goes that, I guess there goes your your career, right? So that's kind of like the double-edged sword of being good at a video game. They could always change. But real estate typically doesn't change, right? Like when you buy a house in an area, historically it appreciates. Just like the stock market, right? So there's different tools that you can use, which I can go into more details. 1 second, I gotta go check on my son real quick, so I'll be right back. Give me 1 second, guys. 1 second. Alright, sorry about that, guys. My son is 6 months old, so he still has trouble sleeping through the night. So I gotta check on him while I'm streaming. But you know, I'm here to help you guys save your money, right? Like, there's not enough talk about saving your hard-earned money through different assets you can invest in. And I like playing video games. I like streaming. I'm not very good at it, but I like doing it. But what I am good at is analyzing deals in real estate, buying right, selling at the right time. I have a lot of experience in buying and selling real estate and investment properties, and I've run into a lot of streamers that need a lot of help, and you know, they're not aware of different tools that you can use to save your money. And every year they just pay so much in taxes, right? Because you can write a lot of things off as far as your office equipment, your, you know, things that you need to run your streaming business, or, you know, whatever business you run as being self-employed. But ultimately you're like double taxed, so it's not going to be enough. You're still going to pay a lot in taxes. And, you know, having an asset like a rental property will help you save some of that income. And most people are real estate investors because historically real estate appreciates, right? So now there's seasons, right? Just like in anything. But if you're able to hold long term, and long term is, you know, anything longer than like 5-10 years or whatever, then historically you can see some pretty good appreciation from that, right? I can't see what these guys are after. They got that angle on me. Does anyone own any real estate? I think I asked this question, but you know, the stream is live and it continues to go on, so if anyone owns a rental property, say so in the chat and share your experience. 'Cause that's something, you know, like as the times change, right? As new ways to make money kind of start to present themselves. One thing hasn't really changed, and that's real estate. Right? Real estate has been there for centuries. So there's pretty black and white descriptions on owning real estate, right? And especially in the tax code. But I would advise getting a really good CPA whenever you're buying real estate, you know, because you want to make sure that you have someone just doing your taxes correctly and saving you the most amount of money possible. Yeah, so I have three rentals. I have a duplex, which, for those of you that don't know, a duplex is 2 units under one roof, right? So they share a wall. It's 2 units under one roof, and it's considered still single family, right? Single family is considered 1 to 4 units. So single family has great loan options. You can get a conventional loan, FHA loan, VA loan. The loan products for single family assets are really good. So that's why I've been kind of focusing on single family because of the type of loan products that are out there. When you start getting into like apartment buildings and you know, bigger units, then that's when the financing gets a little bit more kind of expensive, and also my own teammate, and more expensive, and then harder to qualify too, because let's see. So yeah, I own a duplex, which is 2 units under one roof. One unit is a short-term rental. The other unit is a long-term rental, and they both do well. They both pay my mortgage. And then in the summer, I make more than my mortgage payments and my interest, taxes, insurance. So I'm able to save some money, which I don't spend any of the cash flow. I use the cash flow for repairs, because what's going to happen is you're going to have something that breaks, right? Like water heater, plumbing issues, foundation, windows, roof, electrical, anything structurally that has to do with the house. And if you spend all your cash flow on just nonsense, then you're not going to have any money to pay for those repairs, and then you're gonna have tenant issues, then you're gonna have other issues, and the list just goes on and on. So save the cash flow. You know, you really can start living on the cash flow if the house is paid off, right? But if you have a mortgage on it, I would suggest not to live off the cash flow and just continue to work, you know, a W-2 job or your day job or whatever, right? You hold real estate long enough and you start getting houses paid off, then you can buy more real estate, and what ends up happening is now you don't have to worry about retirement, guys. Like, pensions are non-existent nowadays. Like, we are living in a time where pensions just don't exist unless you're working, like, you know, a government type job, right? But they are not, companies do not offer that anymore. Companies do not offer pensions anymore. You know, government jobs, they're kind of like those like postal workers, police officers, you know, military. Those are pension type jobs, right? But you know, there's the Fortune 500 companies and, you know, jobs that you apply for as a civilian. Most are not offering pensions. So how do you have a retirement set up? Hey, thanks, Lily, for liking the live. Appreciate it. How do you set up a retirement plan that's similar to a pension, right? Because when we all get older, we want to um, have money. We don't want to keep working until we're like 70 years old, right? I mean, I don't. I don't know about you guys, but I don't. And I'm already like almost 40. So I can tell you from experience, once you hit like mid 30s, like shit just starts slowing down. And you start getting wiser and you're like, look, I don't want to work the rest of my life, right? I want to like have a retirement. I want to have financial freedom. And the only way to get there is to start early. Like you can hear all these gurus, they talk about um, oh yeah, you can be financially free if you take this course and blah blah. No, 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 no. Like that course crap is it's just a way for them to make money, right? Because they're making money selling you a course that you know they're just telling you they're basically teaching you what I'm telling you for free right now. you know, it's like it just drives me crazy when I see people that are trying to teach real estate, charge people for it, and like make money off of people that it's not right. Oh man, you know what I'm saying? So I did horrible there. So the key is right is if we can start early, then the more assets we'll have. And when we're at like in our 40s, 50s, we should have multiple assets that are close to paid off that have appreciated over the years, right? So if you want to sell them and buy something else, that's another way of making more money and keeping the money. And you're also using the real estate for tax advantages, right? To offset your active income. So if you're a streamer, like say some of these people that are, really successful in streaming, they're making, I don't know, let's say they're making 100,000 a year, right? They're paying a lot in taxes because they're self-employed. So you might see like, oh, this person's making over 100,000 a year. I want to be a streamer, right? But they don't talk about how much they're paying in taxes. And there are certain ways to offset what you pay in taxes if you have losses, right? And real estate is a paper loss. It's a depreciating asset that in the tax code they have it pretty much identified as a depreciated asset. 27 years is kind of the life of a single family home and asset. So you're able to take losses over time, or if you are using the asset in a certain way, you can take the loss all at once, like for a short-term rental, like Airbnb, right? So if someone's making like 200,000 plus a year, right? They buy an Airbnb, they operate it, they manage it, they follow all the guidelines in the tax code. They're able to take 100% of that structured loss and apply it to their active income. And that's when you hear people like, oh, I don't pay much in tax. I don't pay anything in taxes. They pay in taxes, but they have paper losses to offset that. So that's why I started this channel, right? I mean, I like playing video games, but I'm not very good at them. But I want to talk to people that are self-employed because I'm self-employed. I'm a realtor, right? So I help people buy homes to live in. But investment properties help you maintain the wealth, right? Maintain your your active income. So I feel like it's just not talked about enough, and when it's talked about, people are trying to make money off of courses or whatever. It just doesn't make any sense, right? So you don't need to pay someone to tell you what's free already out there. So that's kind of why I started this channel, guys, is I want to help people like you that are self-employed, that are streamers, keep your money and not lose it all when it comes to paying taxes, right? Like, you're still going to pay taxes. That's just something you can't get out of. That's part of living in the United States. But, oh my gosh. But how can we set ourselves up for retirement? That's the thing that we want to do. We want to set ourselves up for retirement because these people hearing me yap? No, I don't think so. We want to set ourselves up for retirement because the jobs out there are not setting us up for retirement. They're setting us up to just take our money, right? 401ks, I don't know how you guys feel about them, but my opinion is like you can save your money in a much more efficient way than a 401k, right? Oh, this guy's gonna kill me. So, what does that look like, right? This guy here still? So, like, if we don't want to invest in a 401k for retirement, we want to buy real estate. How do we do that? Well, there's a couple ways to do it, right? And I can talk about this at length because I talked about it a little bit yesterday. For if you have no money and you want to buy a house, how can you do that? And there's a strategy called wholesaling, right? That you can make money quickly, subject to the existing mortgage, where you take over somebody else's mortgage and you make the payments. So I talked about this yesterday, guys, on the stream, but I can just kind of run through it quickly if anyone's listening or if anyone's even in here. Does anyone want me to talk about subject to and buying a home for very little money? Anyone interested in that? Anyone interested in that at all? I can talk about it, but I don't know if anyone's interested in hearing about it. No one is interested in hearing about buying a house with little money, like very little money down. It's kind of crazy to me, right? Like, I kind of wish I knew more about this. So is anyone interested in hearing about how to buy a house for little to no money? I talked about it yesterday. It was subject to the existing mortgage. Essentially, it is when you take over someone's mortgage that is having trouble continuing to pay for it, and you make the payments, right? So there's a lot more to it than just that, but that's essentially a summary of what it is. Right, like taking over someone's mortgage who's having trouble making the payments, and owning the asset, making the payments, and giving very little money down to do that. Now, when you're doing that strategy, you got to make sure that the seller understands what's going on, right? Like, if you and the seller don't have a good communication about what's going on, there's a good chance that they could potentially you can have problems in the future, right? So you want to make sure that all parties are understanding of how the real estate is going to be purchased, that you're taking over the mortgage payments, you're not actually going through a bank and going the conventional way of buying real estate. And I'm talking about all this in a Mario hat. It's Halloween, so cut me some slack. And I have a 6-month-old baby, so we're in kid mode right now. But what I'm saying is very valuable. So anyone who's looking to get more information about subject to, I would listen up because look at this guy. Because you might hear about it on TikTok, right? I think there's a guy named Richard Taylor. He runs Hold My Hand Wholesale, and he gets a lot of flack. But what I'll say about that guy is he is a pretty good salesman. He knows what he's talking about. He knows what he's doing. The people that follow him, they might not be very good salespeople, but he is a really good salesperson, right? So he knows how to sell. Oh my gosh. That was terrible. Right, so, how many of you guys have heard of wholesaling real estate? Has anyone heard about wholesaling? Has anyone had any interest in wholesaling real estate? That is the #1 way to make money very quickly in real estate without having to buy a property. It's got wrecked. Right, so yeah, so wholesaling real estate, and now you'd have to check. You know, each state is different, right? So there's laws and rules about wholesaling in different states, and in Texas, it's legal. You can wholesale in Texas. There's no problem. So if you live in Texas, and you're interested in real estate, then wholesaling is something that I would advise people to look into at the very least, because you don't need a license. You just need to understand how to analyze a deal, right? So if you understand how to analyze a deal and you're actually, you're good at talking to people, you don't mind calling people that you don't know and asking them if they're interested to sell. I mean, it's hard work, but it doesn't cost any money to start. Essentially you can start making some pretty good money wholesaling. And how you make money doing that is you find a deal, which you're talking to a seller who's motivated to sell. They're willing to sell at a certain price, right? Like a discounted price, because the home needs a lot of repairs. Maybe it's a hoarder house, maybe there's a lot of issues with the property, whatever the case is, they're willing to sell far below market value. So it's your job as a wholesaler to get that property under contract at a price where you can add your fee into the purchase for the investor who's going to buy that deal off you, right? So on average, you'll hear wholesalers talk about the assignment fee, right? My assignment fee is $5,000. My assignment fee is $10,000. It varies, right? But when you're first starting out, you'll take anything, right? $2,000, $1,000. You'll take anything because you're learning a new skill. Like you're at orientation at a new job, right? So when you're wholesaling, a lot of the beginning work is just learning, and you got to be willing to be flexible a little bit on what you'll take. So 1 second, guys. I think my son might be waking up. Maybe not. No, he's good. All right. So, wait, is he good? Let me see. I think he's okay. I don't know. So, okay, maybe not. 1 second. Sorry, guys. I gotta be right back. Got people still in here? Still got people watching. Sorry about that, guys. My son is kind of in and out of sleep right now. So I don't know how long I'll have today, but we're talking about, or we were talking about subject to the existing mortgage, right? And some of you guys had questions on how that works. Has anyone heard of subject to? Heard that term? And we're talking about investing in real estate, different creative strategies to buy property, sell property. So those are the topics that we've been covering this week for those of you that are interested in building a rental or a real estate portfolio. That's what we're talking about. I help people buy and sell, but also I help streamers that are essentially self-employed, help them with offsetting their income tax by buying real estate and taking paper losses, right? Because we were talking about real estate and how it's a paper loss because it's a depreciating asset. And if you have a good CPA, they can help explain the cost segregation process, the depreciation process to help you save as much money that you make as possible. And if you're like me and self-employed, then you need ways to offset that active income. If you don't offset the active income, then you're going to pay a lot of your hard-earned money towards taxes. And it's a lot. It's a lot, especially when you're self-employed. So you need to be, and they don't teach you this in school, which is crazy. You know, it's crazy that they don't teach you this in school. That's why the national debt is so high. And there's a lot of reasons why the debt is so high. But, I mean, financial literacy and knowledge with finances isn't stressed enough in school. But, unfortunately, a lot of people that get into these kind of situations, they learn the hard way, right? They learn the hard way because they spend a lot of money that they don't have, and they get a huge bill the following year from the IRS saying that they owe X amount of money, and they don't have it. It's gone. It's been spent. So you're hoping that you have the same success that you had the previous year to cover that tax. And then you also have to be mindful of next year's tax. So it's something that consistently happens over and over and over again. So that's why it's so important to ensure that you have enough money put away for taxes, but also that you're investing your money in the right assets to offset taxes, right? So because it's always better to spend money to build your retirement than it is to just lose it every year to the IRS, right? So, I mean, I'm not saying that you need to pay your taxes or else, you know, there's some severe consequences, but there are other ways to shelter your active income for streamers, for individuals that are self-employed, for people that, you know, are trying to be an entrepreneur, right? A lot of people that I've met on this platform, that I've met in person, are entrepreneurs, right? They want to build their own business. They want to have financial freedom. They want to have their own schedule. They want to have work-life balance. So in order to achieve those things, we need to save as much money as possible. So when we're making money, we need to have different ways to where we can put that money to work that we're saving to serve us in the future, right? And a lot of jobs don't have pensions. Like, they just don't exist anymore. Like, we're not living in 1950. You know, we're far past the time where companies are offering pensions, right? So there's 401ks, right? But you can't touch that money until, you know, you're in your later years, right? And I'm assuming most of you like me, want to live now, right? Like, you don't want to wait until you're 60, 70 to start traveling, to start, really living life, because at that age, I mean, the average life expectancy, or the average life expectancy is around like 74. It's like the mid 70s. And you don't want to work all your life and then only have like 10 years to kind of be free. And those are the years that you're dealing with your health issues, right? Like, hopefully by the time we're all at that age, modern medicine will have advanced, and life expectancy will increase. But there's all sorts of things that can happen, right? So the main thing is you're living now, right? Like, you need to have near term goals, and you need to have, of course, long term goals. But what are you gonna do today that's gonna serve you tomorrow, and in the near future, and in the distant future? So these are the things that we talk about on the stream. It's kind of like an interactive podcast. I'll play Call of Duty. I'll just get smashed in this game, which is fine. It's not that big of a deal. But I'm really here to try and help the entrepreneur, right? Help the entrepreneurs save as much money as they can to set up a good retirement. Because, like I was talking about earlier, this game could change, right? If a lot of you are making your money and playing Call of Duty or streaming, or whatever it is, however you're making your money, and if things shift and they change and you can't make money anymore using, being good at a video game or having a podcast, then what are you going to do? I mean, have you saved enough to transition into something else, right? So when you own real estate and you have rentals, those assets last you decades, right? And they appreciate in value. So when you buy a property, typically it increases in value, and the longer you hold it, the more valuable it gets, right? So that is a good way to kind of set up a retirement strategy for yourself. My son's still awake. So what I'll do, guys, is I'm gonna get back on. I gotta take care of my son because he's not sleeping right now, and then we can kind of continue the discussion. I know some questions were asked on TikTok.